So I actually want to start off this episode a little differently. No intro music just yet, because I want to share a little bit about how this episode's going to go. I'm actually kind of nervous about this one, but I guess that's kind of the point. Today, I'm going to share a little bit about my own struggles with mental health and what my journey of healing and recovery and um, what navigating that while being a therapist has looked like for me. And so I hope that you will be able to come along with me as we do this together. Welcome to the Hope Frequency, a space where faith meets mental health. I'm Rini Jacob, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're navigating a season of struggle or wondering if faith and therapy can walk hand in hand, this show is for you. Let's tune in together. So today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my diagnosis, what my healing journey has looked like, um, and how it shaped the therapist that I am today. So this one's titled Fraud in the Room because that's exactly how I felt in those years of healing and recovery. So at first I thought I'll do this very beautiful scripted episode that's emotionally moving and well written. And then I decided against it because I wanted to come into today's episode as messy, not as the therapist, not as I don't know, anybody else, but just as me. So come with me on this journey of 5 years. It kind of is like a roller coaster. There are ups, there are downs. It did make me question a lot about whether I was meant to be a therapist to begin with. All right. So 2018 was the year it all began. I was in my second year of master's, and part of the psychology course required us to administer different tests, right? And one of it was known as the Beck's Depression Inventory, which is basically a scale to assess the severity of depression. Yeah. And one of my friends did not find a subject in time. And so he asked me to finish the test for him. And he returned a couple of days later. He said that my scores were strangely high. And we sort of just laughed it off because, I mean, I don't know, exam stress, college stress. I mean, you're doing a master's, so obviously you have to, be overwhelmed and anxious and depressed, I guess. I really did brush it off at the time. But then he sort of spoke to me and said, I think you should talk to someone. I think you should see someone. And then I think it started hitting me that maybe this wasn't entirely exam stress. And so a whole year has passed. 2019 arrives, and it arrived like a storm. It started with things being so peaceful and calm in the month of Jan. And then came Feb. My grandmother was hospitalized, and within 2 weeks, she deteriorated quite rapidly and she passed away. And that was something that completely broke me because I was very close to her and it was extremely unexpected. At the same time, I was also in a relationship that was slowly chipping away who I was. I was losing my mind, I was losing myself, and eventually we did have to end things there. And all of this sort of built up to the point where I eventually went up to my parents and said the three hardest words ever: I'm not okay. That was a very hard thing for me to admit because I really felt like a complete failure at that point. All my peers were graduating, getting their thesis sorted, finishing up with their assignments, and I was barely surviving. I was scraping through each day, hoping that I would just be able to manage, like, that particular day. I think everything felt so heavy at that time. Like, waking up was heavy, getting out of the bed was heavy, like, I don't know, eating was hard. Every single thing that we take every single thing that we take for granted on a daily basis was insanely hard at that time. With the help of my family, I started therapy and treatment. I was officially diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and I was put on some medication for a while as well. Here's what they don't tell you in the textbooks, or maybe they do, and I just didn't register how true it was. The side effects of those first weeks of medication were absolutely brutal. I was struggling with vertigo. I couldn't even cross the road. I was extremely nauseous. I had lost the appetite to do anything really. let alone eat food. I was so numb and so exhausted all the time. I just wanted to sleep and do absolutely nothing. I would just lay in bed and cry out to God. I wasn't sure if He was listening, if He was there. I couldn't understand why I was going through it, first of all. I couldn't understand what I had done or what I need to take responsibility for that led me to that point. Um, and yeah, I think that was a very, very dark phase for sure. And in the middle of all of this, I started my first job as a therapist at a therapy center. Nothing had seemed the way I'd imagined it in my head. I really thought that my first job would be the one that I ace and I do to the best of my ability. And here I was just somehow dragging myself to work, somehow being present in the sessions, trying to really give my best. I felt like a fraud as I was trying to heal others while struggling with my own illness. And then this fear started growing inside of me. What if I'm not meant for this job? What if I'm not cut out for this field? Like, am I even supposed to be here? Should I just call it quits? Would anybody trust a therapist who's struggling with depression and anxiety herself? Even though I wanted to quit, I didn't. I made it through that season. I showed up, took my medication, attended sessions, went to work, and eventually I did get better. Praise God for that. Um, but as I was taking sessions, I think there was one point where I was working with a client struggling with depression herself, who was becoming very resistant towards therapy. She did not want to cooperate in the sessions. And one day she just threw this line at me. You don't know what it's like to struggle with mental illness. You don't know what it's like to have lost the will to live. And in response to that, I said, I actually kind of do. And so, for the first time ever, I was able to put aside my shame of the diagnosis and just sort of share very vulnerably with the client. And as I said that, I felt like something shifted. She didn't feel alone in her struggles. She didn't feel like she was talking to somebody who was just sharing something from a textbook, but she knew she was talking to somebody who was sharing from her own struggles in her own life as well. And so something clicked for me there. You know, I started to realize that this part of me is not really something that I should hide or I should be ashamed of, but it probably could help me. And so the more I would share it with very specific clients in very specific settings, the more I saw it help. And that's when it hit me. My struggle didn't disqualify me, it actually deepened me as a therapist. In fact, it made me better because it wasn't that I was speaking out of a place of theory alone, but I was also speaking from personal experience. I think people would give me all sorts of advice when they knew that I was going for therapy and when they knew that I was taking medication. Someone told me that I should stop because it means that I don't have enough faith. Some people said I was depressed because I had stopped praying. It's because I am not close to God. Because I don't remember half the stuff, but I remember feeling I remember feeling so much shame and so much confusion around this. There are some things that held me in that season and some things that continue to hold me because I don't think for me that the anxiety or depression has gone away 100%. It is something that I learned to manage and sort of work on over time. First and foremost, therapy helped. Like, absolutely. Yeah. Every therapist needs a therapist, is for sure the truth. I had a lovely psychologist who helped me every single step of the way, and she really helped me not feel alone. She really helped me untangle some of those thoughts that I was struggling with and really helped me work through it. The other thing that really helped were my spiritual mentors, trusted friends that allowed me to be a mess without trying to fix me. I think they were just there with me and I didn't feel alone. And I think for me, that was perhaps more valuable than any advice that they could have offered. The other thing is worship. I think to me, worship has always been me just being able to let go in His presence. You know, I could just go into God's presence and just be. I would cry, I would sing, Sometimes I wouldn't feel like singing. I would just listen to the worship music and just be. But that has really anchored me in every season. It has been the thing that I keep going back to, and it's been the thing that has helped. The other thing is being able to confess to someone and having that accountability space. There's something so powerful about saying things out loud. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but there's sometimes this thought that just stays in your head and it just keeps running on loop over and over again until finally you say it out loud and you realize, like, oh my gosh, that's actually kind of ridiculous. It doesn't really make sense. And it's also why therapy works. It's only when you say certain things out loud and you spell certain things out that you're able to recognize that that's what it is. You're able to call it out and you're able to work through it. And the last thing would be my constant, unfailing anchor, Jesus. Um, he's the one I talk to the most. He's the one I laugh with and fight with, and I get to show who I really am. I don't think his voice ever said that I should be ashamed of my diagnosis. I don't think his voice ever said that I was the problem. I don't think I ever felt condemned when I was with him. And so he was and continues to be my safe space, um, the safest of them all. Yeah. I also want to quickly address this myth that all therapists have their act together. I often have clients telling me, like, I'm sure you must be doing great because you have all this wisdom and you have all of this expertise, knowledge. And I'm like, no, I really don't. It's so far from the truth. Um, because as a professional, I think it's very easy to objectively look at somebody else's issues and dissect them and analyze them and to apply the right theoretical knowledge there. But when it comes to yourself, you're approaching yourself as you, and you still require the same tools that anybody else dealing with the same issues would, right? My own journey and my own struggles have taught me so much. They've helped me recognize that whatever it is that I struggled with and whatever I continue to struggle with is not something that I should avoid or hide. It really deepened my empathy towards my clients, and it has added value to my role as a therapist. Today, I work with over 35 clients, people of all ages, all walks of life. And over time, God specifically led me into faith based therapy as well. Um, and what I've witnessed in that room, watching people find healing through faith, through God, has been absolutely mind blowing. And so, if you're listening to this and you're in the middle of your own healing journey, I just want you to know that you're not alone, that it's human to struggle, and that it takes strength to seek help and to love yourself through therapy. I think the takeaway for me is that that very hard season of my life was not the end of my story, but that it actually made my story. It shaped the way I am, it shaped the way I work, um, and it helped me lean on God in a way that I had never leaned on Him before. You are allowed to be that strong pillar of support in every other area of your life while also having a space for you to rest, heal, and lean onto someone else. You're allowed to have strong faith and a solid scriptural understanding while also struggling with mental health. And I guess the note for myself would be that you're allowed to be an imperfect psychologist. To everyone who is a strong pillar for everybody else, I'd encourage you to be able to find that one space where you can lean on someone else for strength, where you can lean on someone else for support, where you can simply come, be a mess, and you can just rest. Anyway, if you felt torn between faith and mental health, or if you've ever wondered if Jesus and therapy can coexist, then this space is for you. Welcome to the Hope Frequency. If this resonated with you, do share this episode with a friend. I'd also love to hear, what your feedback is, what you thought about this episode. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.